You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. Volatility Views is brought to you by MIAX, one of the fastest, most efficient trading platforms in the world. MIAX is proud to bring you Spikes Volatility products. Spikes options and futures are traded on the Spikes Volatility Index, SPIKE, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction, all for ultra-low exchange fees. It's volatility reimagined. Learn more about Spikes at miaxoptions.com/spikes. Options and futures involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution in trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions, LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time once again for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. as well as, of course, from the ever-compelling, at least we think so, Options Insider Radio Network. Glad to see so many of you are gearing up for the Pro Options Oddities coming up later on today. Of course, we got surprise. We got a double dose of Pro Q&As headed your way next week. Got some Vol Legends on deck for that one. So that should be fun as well. So if you haven't joined us yet on the Pro stuff, you're missing out on a good one next week. Two good ones next week, in addition to all the oddities fun and everything else, and the early glimpses of all the other shows, early access to Options Bootcamp, early access to OPR, all that good stuff, and a whole bunch more. You know where to go to find out more. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. And of course, keep those questions and comments coming however you listen, live, after the fact, on demand, on Audible, on a tin can with string in Estonia. However you listen to the show, keep those questions and comments coming. We do love to hear from you guys and gals out there. Let's see who we're hearing from on the old program today. First, pleased to be joined once again, holding down the MIAX hot seat, Mr. Matt McFarland, the derivatives product and biz dev head for futures. Long business card over there at MIAX. Matt, welcome back to Volatility Views.
Thanks, Mark. I'm excited to be here this week. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're excited to have you in the hot seat, get a deep dive into all things Spikes futures in a little bit, and also joining us once again from the dark and stormy shores of Maine, the rock lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from the land of the pit. Mr. G, welcome back to the program. How go things dark and stormy in the land of Maine, sir?
It is actually sunny and quite pleasant. So I know that changes your whole MO and you get grumpy, but it is a sunny, lovely day here in Maine. The tide's coming in and the fish are laughing at me that eventually at 4 o'clock I will go try to fish.
I'm disappointed that you start off the show with such a blatant lie, sir. We all know that's not true. It can't possibly be true. They're called the dark and stormy shores of Maine for a reason. So we'll just ignore his blatant lie, listeners, as we keep on rolling right on into the volatility review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Vol Review, the portion of the show where we do just that. We review the week that was, and indeed still is, some of vol trading and trending and unusual activity and all sorts of fun perspectives. And coming into the end of the week, we're seeing the markets kind of replaying a similar tune that they've played out throughout most of this week, which has kind of been struggling to maintain their footing. It's not a bloodbath by any means. In fact, it seems like a lot of the sell-off is mitigating. Who knows? By the end of the show, we could flip green, perhaps even in the NASDAQ or other areas. But coming into showtime, we are seeing mostly red still on the screen. NASDAQ off about 0.5%, so not a big day there. S&P off about 0.15%. Dow off a little over 0.25%. We were seeing, as the sell-off was a little bit juicier, a little bit spicier earlier in the session, we were seeing vol starting to get a little bit frothy. But coming into showtime, it seems like that's trending down a little bit as well. Spikes come into showtime's at about 16.25, puts it down 0.5 point from where it was this time last show. And then VIX Cash was at about a 17.25 to kick off the show. Puts it actually up about a point from last show. So interesting evolutions going on over there in Spikes and in VIX Cash. VVIX, aka the vol of vol, at about a 123. So up a wee bit, up about 12 points or so from this time last week. So a little bit more vol popping in. In fact, I do believe we did have some prognostications in the 17 handle there last week on the crystal ball. Matt shocked everybody, Matt Amberson, by coming out with the 17 handle. And he's looking all right now. We'll see, maybe looking a little better earlier this morning than he is right now. But we shall see. The show is young. And volatility is a fickle mistress. It can go anywhere over the course of this next hour. But Matt, let's start with you. We haven't had you on the show in a lit's while, so let's catch us up. What's been lighting up your tape? What's been catching your eye in the world of vol since we last chatted, sir, as you ease your way into the new role over there at MIAX?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It has been a while since I've been on your show. In fact, it was April 30th, and I checked my notes from last time and where Spikes was when I was on the show last time. It was kind of range bound in the 17-19 area. And, as I join you again, it appears a bit range bound as well. Now a slightly lower, about 16 to 18 seems to be the range now. So, when I'm looking at the Spikes index itself over the course of 2021, what kind of stands out to me is a series of lower highs and lower lows. So we've got, volatility trending lower, which quite frankly is not that uncommon of a phenomenon when you had the type of volatility that we experienced in 2020. What the big question is how long will that trend continue? When is the next vol event? I wish I had those answers. If I did have those answers, I'd be an incredibly valuable guest for you. But what we do have, and what we're fortunate in this profession to have, is products that allow us to manage those risks. And pleased to report that the MIAX Exchange Group's efforts to develop exchange-traded volatility products in the form of Spikes futures and options is coming along very, very nicely. And I've got some, important developments to share with you this afternoon in that regard.
Looking forward to all that. You're right. You have some interesting numbers and some developments to share with us. Before we get there, let's go back out to the dark and stormy. I don't care what he says, listeners. The dark and stormy shores of Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, a little bit more vol on the screen this morning than there is right now, but still, compared to last week, we got a little bit more juice there on the screen. What's lighting up your tape in the land of volatility today, sir?
Well. Annoyance, grumpiness, VIX not moving, spikes, nothing's moving. It's vol hell. It's actually what I call vol fatigue, where the liquidity, nobody's selling juice. So this a downside skew is ridiculously high. I'm looking at, top percentage of very top of the standard deviation range, like way, like 100, 200% of standard deviation for some skews and some terms. Like, it's just nuts, right? So there's no one selling puts anymore in the S&P 500. VIX ain't going to go down. 16 is the new 12. Whatever. It is just not going to happen. And I think it's this COVID fed liquidity, blah, 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 for whatever reason, that supply of call sellers too, I think. So if there was huge call sellers in SPX, the liquidity provider would be buying those things on the upside, back spreading and like crushing the curve, right? But there isn't though, right? Because you get the meme thing and like still there's upside skew in almost every individual equity contract you can see, which is, 2 years ago, Mark, if you saw that, you would be like, what? Like this dumb junk stock has upside call vol. So I think those two things are combining to, like we just heard, keeping kind of a new floor on VIX. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. It could. I don't know what's going to take that, because the vaccines help, but it's certainly not a final solution. The Fed, I don't know how much liquid, bond issuance and all that stuff really hasn't stopped. We're still in this kind of bizarro land of continually trying to prime the economy from monetary policy. So all those things are just adding up to add people uncertainty. So, and then the funny thing is all the dollars that are coming in are going into the stock market. So we've got very high asset prices and a little bit of nerves, and there's just no willingness to sell the vol asset basically below a level. And that's where we find ourselves right now. So, this morning, I think VIX, again, tried to break through 16 for about 3 seconds, and then it all went away in the first 15 minutes of the day. And this is how we find ourselves now. And I think just vol, until something happens, it's a dead trade. I'm looking at more like just regular flies and stuff, but as far as vol products and stuff like short term, again, unless something miraculously changes or, we actually get a real shock to the system again, just short-term vol is a short-term vol product trade is tough right now. I'll just leave it right there.
I think my response to what you mentioned earlier, if I had seen these dramatic bids and call wings a couple of years ago, I would have said, sold to you. And these days now, you can't really do that anymore unless you want to break the bank. So yes, things have evolved over not even the last couple of years. I say the last 6 months, Mr. Rock Lobster. 2021 brought some new gifts for all of us, sir.
Yes, it brought the upside in.
It totally did. It brought upside is back. People are arguing now that we need to structurally change the way we price upside calls. And who ever would have thought that? Even, let's say, the middle of last year. No way. It would have been madness. And yet that's where we find ourselves in the middle of 2021. We all thought this was going to be the quiet year. This one was going to sneak in after the whirlwind, the maelstrom, the madness that was 2020. 2021 couldn't possibly hold a candle to that. It was going to sneak in. Vol was going to drop off. Volume was going to drop off. And just all things are going to return to normalcy, and at least so far. The answer to that is a resounding nay. Speaking of volume, let's get out there a little bit. Matt, you kind of hinted at it earlier. You guys over there in MIAX, I think, spoiler alert, have kind of been blowing the doors off. And I'm just looking at some of these numbers here. We kind of crunched the numbers for the whole business back about a week or so ago. Obviously, June was a robust month for the overall options market, the most active June in the history of the business. And I do believe the second busiest month in the history of the options business. So we're talking some serious numbers. And again, that's June. That's the month. Usually sell in May and go away applies to the options market as well. Nobody trades from, June till the end of August, really. And yet June, blowing the doors off. So that's what we have here in 2021, listeners. But that's not the only thing blowing the doors off here, Matt. You folks over there at MIAX have been putting up some numbers. I'm looking at some of it right now. Monthly market share hit a new record, almost 15.5%, 15.45% in June 2021. Multi-list options, 16.65 market share. That was a record. That was one-day record on June 4th of last month. So you're talking big numbers here, Mr. Matt. If that's not enough, you guys obviously on your acquisition spree have now acquired MGEX. MGEX putting up some numbers there, 412,000 contracts, the second highest monthly volume in the history of the exchange, 45.5% increase from June of last year. So, Matt, sounds like some things are going right in your neck of the woods, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. You're correct. Things are going well at MIAX in several different spaces and in the various exchanges within the MIAX exchange group. As you mentioned, on the equity options side of the business, our market share continues to climb. I think that is just a testament to really the great technology that we have on the equity option side of the business and the value that is finding within the market. And I think that's why you're seeing our market share continue to creep higher. And of course, you mentioned our recent acquisition of the Minneapolis Grain Exchange futures platform, and that's allowing us to grow our Spikes futures business. And that's going really, really well as well. We started a new incentive program for our Spikes futures at the beginning of July, and we've put together a great group of liquidity providers that are doing a great job. The market quality that we are producing on Spikes futures has just been fantastic. Let me share some key metrics that we look at. For instance, the average size displayed on the bid ask in the front two contracts, that's where most of the volume comes in, is 38 contracts. That compares to 19 contracts in June. So we've doubled the average size displayed. And you think about what these contract represents. One contract represents 1,000 Vega. So this is a big contract. So we're displaying great size. Also, the percentage of time that we're showing a one tick wide market, 75% of the time during U.S. trading hours. That compares to 50% of the time in June. So in July, we're at 75%. So it's trending upward in terms of market quality. And that's especially important because, with a new product, folks want to know, can they get in and out at reasonable prices? And certainly these market quality metrics indicate that they can. But not only is market quality really, really strong, volume has been fantastic as well. We had a record day on Wednesday, over 1,800 contracts. Today we look like we're over 1,600 contracts already. So trending towards another record day. Admittedly, it's easy to set records when you start from a low base, but the trend is certainly upward, and we're just thrilled to be able to offer the market, a cost-efficient manner to hedge volatility risk or speculate on volatility risk.
Yeah, certainly that incentive program you guys are working on does seem to be paying dividends out there. You mentioned some volume records out there. Daily record 2,723 contracts on July 8th, a record for the week of 7,333 contracts. So things seem to be heading in the right direction. For everyone out there who's asking about the options, that's going to translate. That's the whole plan, right? You make the underlying more liquid, a little bit tighter. That translates into tighter spreads on the options, which I know something you folks there in the audience have been asking for some time. So there you go. Get the futures up and running. The options will follow suit. Speaking of futures, Mr. Rock Lobster, we're seeing not a heck of a lot of evolution net on the week out there in the land of VIX futures. Coming into showtime, the July futures moving, don't get me wrong, it's up about a point, but that's the very front portion of the curve. That's going to swing around usually. Outside of that, we're seeing the AUG and SEP futures haven't really done a heck of a lot. I think the AUG future coming into showtime is up about a mere 1/10 of a point. SEP future up about 1/4 of a point. That was really about it. So anything really catching your eye in the land of VIX futures this week, Mr. Rock Lobster?
Besides my grumpiness?
That's just a given any given day of the week, sir.
Yeah, I would just say more of the same. Abnormally high, forward vol numbers. I guess not abnormally high anymore. Normal for what's going on right now. I was looking really good in the crystal ball this morning when we were ticking around to 1625 for the first half hour of the day. But of course, as the show goes on, your early morning prognostications don't look so good. But you still have basically the same symptom for vol, where the nearer term vol is lower because realized vol in the SPX is a low single digit. It's like 7 or 8%. All the front month, all the weekly and the short term vols slope downward. They're really inexpensive. And nobody is out there selling any of the back months. So you get this higher, steeper future premium, and it isn't going away. It's just, it's good to lock in potential vol puts, and I think it sets up well for 30-day trades and things like that. You got to take, but also now the sell-offs are so short, and SPY that you got we said it last week, you have about 40 minutes to close some upside VIX. That's all you got. So that again, the decay is rich. It works eventually, but the big dollars that used to come from buying puts in the vol products and stuff like that, and until we see a 12 handle again, you got to temper your expectations. But yeah, a lot of that same persistent forward vol thing where there's not a lot of back month sellers, and you have much lower short term volatility in the SPX. We have that kind of steeper curve, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
Our pro listeners, Mr. Rock Lobster, they're learning. They're learning very well. We got a little bit of a love fest going on in the chat right now, and they're all kind of prematurely congratulating Options Queen. I forgot she was at a 17.25 at the end of our last show. That was looking pretty good at the start of the show, and Mr. Unlimited shouting her out. So people shouting out other people for winning. Look at the love fest we have going on. What a nice crew we have listening live. But as I mentioned, vol is a fickle mistress. We haven't gotten to the end of the show yet. I do doff my cap to your early claiming of victory, though. So that was smart. Stay on that tip as we keep on roll. I've done that once or twice myself. Let's head on out to the options landscape. Spikes options, pretty similar to last week in terms of the top 5 positions out there. It's pretty much the July 2230s, that vertical with that kind of funky 50 kicker, I guess you can call it out there. Someone really has an axe to grind for the 50 strike out there in spikes, followed by the 16, 18, put vertical, all that kind of the top 5 positions. Very similar to what we saw out there last week. Be interesting to see now that we're seeing some more numbers out there in the spikes futures and some tightening of those spreads, how that translates to some more options paper going forward. Speaking of options paper, VIX actually doing some today. It's a rare week or rare day, really, where VIX is already exceeding its ADV. That ADV has gotten pretty anemic. It's down to about 420,000 contracts. That's down another 44,000 from this time last week, listeners. I got a feeling it's going to tick up a little bit after today because they're already at 464 coming into this portion of the show. Let's look out to see some top 10 positions out here in VIX land. If you're wondering, it's still pretty much 60-40 puts to calls out. I think it was 50-50 last week, so it has ticked ever so slightly in the favor of the puts. Cost you about 141,000 contracts to break into the top 10 right now in VIX land. That gets you to the July 21 puts, followed by number 9, $1.49 of the July 15 puts. Number 8, $1.50 of the AUG 17 puts. I think you can see where we're going here. Number 7, $1.53 of the July 18 puts. Number 6, our first call in the top 10, $1.73 of the NOV 60s. Another intriguing strike. We got the 50s in July out there in spikes, and now we got the NOV 60s in VIX. They've been kind of interesting to watch for a little while out there. Number 5, 185,000 of the July 17 puts. Then back to the calls. Number 4, 200K, almost exactly, of the July 40s. You know what's up with those. That's the other half of that 25-40 vertical that not exactly looking so great out there. Number 3, 202,000 of the SEP 25 calls. Number 2, 215,000 of the July 16 puts. And number 1, with a decent size bullet, 295,000 of the aforementioned July 25s. I don't have it in front of me right now, but last week that July 25-40 vertical was trading for around 35 cents. I got to imagine it's a wee bit less right now. It did look a lot better intra-week last week than when we had that little bit of a vol spike. Those 25 calls got up to about as high as around $1.25. So you probably could have got that spread off for maybe close to $1 if you were pretty diligent about it. So they paid, I believe, around $2 for it back in April 8th to be precise. So they could have gotten half of their money back if they were diligent about it. These days, not so much. That one looks like it's going to go the way of the dodo. Obviously, they have something else on against it. Hopefully, that is working in their favor because the options leg is not. Let's break down some of these options action in a little bit more detail. Start with today, obviously, because it's one of the more active days we've seen out there in some time in VIX land. About 459,000 contracts on the tape, like I mentioned earlier. The top most active contract out there today, the AUG 25, with about 37,000 of those, followed by the July 18 puts, number 2 with 32,000. Number 3, the AUG 16 puts, 31,000 of those. Number 4, 30,000 almost exactly of the AUG 32 halves. And round out the top 5 today, 25K of the July 17 puts. Those are going out, those are going out next week. Yeah, those are their regular monthly July there. Yesterday, we had 470,000 contracts on the tape. The most active contract, the July 18 puts, 35K of those, followed by the July 17 puts, 33,000. Number 3, July 18 calls, 25,000 of those. Number 4, 24K of the October, going out to October 25s. Round out the top 5 yesterday, the July 16 puts, 22K of those. Wednesday, a lighter day, only 349,000 contracts on the tape, but someone had an axe to grind on the July 20s. 55,000 of those traded that day, followed by number 2, 23,000 of the July 30s. Maybe a bit of a ratio vertical there. Number 3, 21,000 of the July 16 puts. Number 4, about 20K of the July 17 puts. And rounding out the top 5 on Wednesday, 14,000 of the AUG 50s. So again, the 50 strike popping up on the radar. Intriguing. Tuesday, 422,000 contracts on the tape. Number 1 with a bullet, 50K, almost 51,000 of the July 16 puts, followed by about 25,000 of the AUG 32 halves. Another interesting strike. Number 3, about 18, almost 19,000 of the July 18 puts. Number 4, 16K of the AUG 16 puts. And rounding out the top 5 on Tuesday, 14,600 of the AUG 70s. So we had the 60s, or excuse me, the 50s the day after on Wednesday. The day before, we had the 70s going up. So someone's got a bit of an axe to grind for some upside in August. Intriguing out there. Monday, a pretty light day, only 338,000 contracts on the tape. The most active contract, 43, almost 44,000 of the July 16 puts, followed by 27,000 of the July 17 puts. Number 3, 20K, almost exactly of the July 21 puts. Number 4, the SEP 95s, 14,600 of that. It's always nice when you see these, shall we say, optimistic strikes popping into the top 5. And number 5, 13,600 of the July 18 puts. Mr. Rock Lobster, anything catch your eye this week in the world of VIX options? And what our audience really wants to know is how many of those SEP 95s did you buy on Monday, sir?
I could tell you, that the also a reminder, there's still next week too. So even though you have July ordinary expiring today, the VIX ordinary contracts expires on Wednesday. So you got a few more days, and those few days could be pivotal. You never know. Maybe Mr. 2540 is looking for a home run. They got as high as 80 cents last week, those spreads, and that was your only chance to sell any vol. They traded high as 120, I think, for the cycle. I know.
Are you speaking from experience? Did you have some of that spread on yourself?
I did, and I had it as a hedge for puts. And as usual, I was greedy both times and kind of thought we'd get a little more out of each way, but we didn't. What's definitely is like the lack of interest in like 14 and 15, like all the junk puts you think would used to trade a little bit. Just what's funny is you don't see any. Like when you look at the active volume when we trade to a 16 handle, like you're seeing some 17 puts, right? You're seeing some 16 puts, but 15, 14, just not a whole lot of action. So it's actually, I think it's more like what is conspicuously absent from the list of activity when you've been down to the 16 handle for so long, for the cash VIX, but the future is just, 17, 18, whatever. And there's just no, it never really decays. So that is a symptom of, I think just people don't think there's a lot of movement in that downside. So listeners can take that for what it's worth, but that's what we got.
That is what we got. And before we roll off of the vol options here, Matt, I know you've been watching some interesting downside going up in Spikes options. So what's been lighting up your tape in Spikes puts this week, sir?
Yeah, so we had some trades in the Spikes, July Spikes puts last Friday. And as you mentioned earlier in the show, Mark, all these efforts that we're putting forth on the futures are, largely directed towards helping to support the Spikes options markets. And those are starting to trade a bit. The July 18 put traded last Friday. A customer was a buyer for 120. So, that's got a break even level of 1680. Index right now is, just above 16. So expiration Wednesday morning. When I think about expressing a short volatility position, this is a way to express a short volatility position that I kind of like. I'm kind of a conservative, take a conservative approach. And, by buying a put, you're just risking the premium that you're paying. So it's, as we all know, trading short vol can be risky, but this is perhaps a less risky way to express that view. But thought it was an interesting trade, not only the strike selection, but the timing of the trade, in the sense that with expiration on Friday, and you get that convergence of futures price to spot price. The timing of that convergence is quite timely, in the sense that tends to happen with a week and a half to go or so.
Matt, you're not comfortable just blasting out in a ton of naked, let's say, Spikes 25s. Why would that make you uncomfortable? I don't understand, sir.
Yeah, I tend to, in volatility land, I tend to be more comfortable buying puts than selling calls.
I can certainly get behind that sentiment. You're right. It is good to see more people piling into the options. We have seen a lot of feedback from the listeners and the audience to say, hey, they love an alternative to VIX. They want to trade it. And, the markets have been a little wide, which is, when they come in, they see something that's like, no bid at a buck or whatever, and they want to trade somewhere in the middle. They're not even seeing that. That's intimidating to people. So, the things come in a little bit. That's the moment I think a lot of our listeners have been waiting for to even get them started. I've told them in the past, and I have had this experience myself. If you do work stuff diligently and you come in kind of mid-market in Spikes, it does seem like the market makers are willing to play ball with you. They may look scary at the front. It may look like they're not really coming to play ball. But if you do work some orders out there, I have been filled, had some good success. You have to just make that first step, listeners. And I get it. Sometimes that can be intimidating. So I think the futures tightening up will make that first step a lot easier for a lot of you out there. Speaking of shorting vol, a product a lot of you folks like to use to short vol these days is VXX. And if that was the case, you didn't really get a lot of that squeeze this week. It was at about a 29.5 kicking off the show, which puts it pretty much exactly unched from where it was this time last week. That's a rare occurrence in VXX. I'm trying to remember the last time we saw VXX unched. Usually it's aggressively down. Sometimes it's aggressively up. This thing has been rocking and rolling ever since it reverse split back up to 40. So having it sit right around 29.5 again after a whole week, that's a very rare thing out there, listeners. Let's see. Volume-wise, it's about the same as it was last week as well, about 209,000 contracts. The ADV is down about 4,000, so not a huge swing out there. Seems like we are finally getting out from underneath the madness of the pre-split adjusted names out there. Let's just do a top 5 in VXX because it is still a lot of old legacy stuff lurking out there. By the way, if you're wondering, it is 80-20 puts to calls in the top 10 out there. So there are a couple of calls. They do both seem to be legacy pre-split adjusted VXX1 positions. So outside of that, not a lot of love for the upside out there in VXX. Top 5 here. Let's do number 5, 19,000 of the July 27 puts. Number 4, 21K of the pre-split adjusted SEP 14s, 21,400 of those. Number 3, 22, almost 23,000 of the AUG 25 puts. Number 2, 23,000 of the back to the VXX1 SEP 9 puts. And number 1 out there, 32,000. Still, these SEP positions still dominate in VXX here. SEP 10 calls, 32,000 of those. Decent paper on the tape today, 169,000 contracts. Let's see what's lighting it up out there today. Most active contract, not surprising, are the 29 puts going out today. About 13,000 of those have traded, followed by the 28 puts going out next week, almost 10,000 of those. The 28 half puts going out today, number 3, 8,000 of those. Number 4, 7,500 of the 30 calls going out today. Intriguing. And rounding out the top 5, actually, this is the surprise. The SEP 50s, 7,500 almost of those have traded today as well. So I was saying before, there is some strange manifestations of paper around the 50 strike in spikes. We see even higher strikes out there in VIX. Looks like someone's coming to play on the 50 strike in VXX as well. Mr. Rock Lobster, I know you and your crazies like yourselves a little VXX these days. So A, what are you lighting up out there? And then B, a related question to earlier, how many of these SEP 50s did you buy in VXX, sir?
How many are we piling on? Well, the good news about the SEP 50s is they just don't decay. They take forever.
They are immune. That you found the option finally that is immune to decay, sir. Well done to you.
Exactly. I actually I owned some VXX strangles on Monday, and I closed them all by Tuesday and thankfully I did for a small loss, about 18 cents a contract per strangle, because I thought we were going to get some action, right? And then no action. So I won't hold the 3-day strangle if I don't get any action day one. So anyway, I give it an overnight, but after that, I'll just kill it if the trade's not green. So but that's what I was surprised. Like the range for VXX this week, I think was maybe $1 total up and down all 5 days. So like 28.75 to what 29.75. That was about it. Just like we have like vol fatigue, the dog days of summer for vol. Usually you would have more fun because the VIX is 12 and the vol is a lot lower in the SPX. So I think it's like one of the rare times that they say iron condor, baby, iron condor in the SPX. It's probably the best trade you can make at this point because market just really doesn't go anywhere and there's actually decent premium to sell. So I think, you could do an easy like iron condor and then buy like one cheap VIX call, VXX call as a hedge. And you got your positive decay and then you got your icky downside if you need it. And you're probably out of the thing in a week just because nothing's moving.
Uh-oh, Iron Condor. Don't let your buddy, Mr. Schlesinger, who was on the network on our pro Q&A a couple weeks ago, don't let him hear that. He calls the Iron Condor an iron butterfly for cowards, sir. He would mock you.
Yeah, I know.
Of course, Don mocking you.
I have a lot of retail clients, so they have to be cowardly to stay around.
Don mocking you is nothing new. We know that here. As we keep on rolling into the other product you love to fade so heavily out there these days, Mr. Rock Lobster, and it's usually delivering. It's UVXY, another one that's kind of stuck in a rut this week. This one might even be more impressive that it's pretty much almost unched from last week as well, because this one, as much downside as VXX has had, UVXY has been on its own very special journey since reverse splitting. 27 3/4 or so coming into the start of the show. That was down about 1/4 of a point from last show, which is nothing. That's a rounding error in UVXY these days. ADV starting to tick up a little bit again, 119,000. Obviously, it got annihilated because of all the symbology madness out there. Up about 6,000 from what it was this time last week. So slowly starting to rebuild. Probably hit it again today. So far, about 104,000 contracts on the tape out there. Let's look really quickly at what we got here in UVXY. Top 10, it's actually 50-50 puts to calls. So bit of a coin flip out there in UVXY, which is kind of interesting. But then again, a lot of that dominated by our pre-split adjusted contracts. Let's just do another top 5 out here really quickly. Number 5, 7,700 of the SEP 5s again. UVXY1, so take those with a bit of a grain of salt. Number 4, 8,500 of the July 20 puts. Number 3, 9,700 of the July 25 puts. This is my favorite. Number 2, 9,800. Oh, these are pre-split adjusted. That's why. The Jan 1 puts. I thought those were pretty pessimistic for a second. So I don't know if I can let it get to 1, but I get the UVXY 1, a little bit different story. Number 1 out there, 15,600 of the July 60 calls. Those bad boys going out next week. Those are just regular July too. I'll have to see when those went up, see what they put them up for. But I got a feeling we're probably not hitting the 60 handle between now and expiration. But then again, crazier things. That'd be pretty crazy. Don't get me wrong. That'd be up there. But that crazier things have happened out there. In terms of what's lighting it up today, today we got the July 27s going out today, 11,200, followed by the July 28 puts. Also 11,200 of those. And then we got pretty much all stuff today. July 27 puts, 9,000 of those. July 28 calls, about 8,700 of those. And then going out to next week on the 23rd, the 28 calls with about 3,200. Mr. Rock Lobster, you have repeatedly expressed your preference for UVXY these days over VXX. Let's light up your tape out there today, sir.
How many of the 25 puts went out worthless when it looked like I had a model low of UVXY of, I think, 23 half if we had a 15 handle VIX close, 15 handle for VIX for this week, which was accurate, except for the 15 handle VIX part. So, again, I think UVXY, tougher trade, maybe kind of weird. I know Slush and Joe will be like, oh, well, you're all sissies, but like, the kind of funky iron butterfly trade or something in there, I think it's kind of dead until it takes off. As much as the Fed keeps trying to jawbone things around a little bit, like I don't think they got enough of a market sell-off, so they're going to keep trying it. I think literally every week they change their tune on what they're doing with rates in their balance sheet. So, and it looks like today is their, they claim to be tapering. So, who the heck knows? All I know is that into a weekend, VIX is up, and it looks like the bid is going to hold for the day. So really, maybe we see some fireworks next week. It is possible. It is possible, although it has not happened.
Don't like what Powell says. Just wait 5 minutes, because one of the governors will come out and say something else completely contradictory, and it'll be a whole just a mess of nonsense over there in the land of the Fed, as it usually is out there. Speaking of messes of nonsense, it is, of course, well, before we get to that, really quickly, we're talking about vol ETPs and ETFs out here. Matt, I know you don't watch a lot of the VXXs and UVXYs. It sounds like you folks have some cool stuff in the hopper in terms of spikes ETFs, sir.
Yeah, that's correct. So a firm called Convexity Shares has filed with the SEC to list 2 ETFs that will embed spikes futures within them. One would be a 1x long. The other would be a 1.5x long. So essentially the analogs to VXX and UVXY. So investors will have further choices to make amongst volatility ETPs in the near future. There's no launch date yet for these ETFs. It's still under SEC review, but perhaps sometime later this year, those products will come out.
Well, that'll be really exciting. And also kind of going back to that volume story we were saying before, the ETPs tend to drive a lot of volume over there on the VIX front. Interesting to see what they do on the spikes front as well. Certainly can't hurt. That's for sure. All right, looking out really quickly here on the kickoff of earnings season. If you like all those numbers that we crunch for you over there pretty much every day these days, listeners. You can check them out for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com. We just flipped the script over there to a new earnings season, so a blank slate. If you're wondering, Matt and his team over there at Orats did just adjust their final numbers for the last earnings season. We came in at a 72%, adjusted it down from a 74%. So spoiler alert, it wasn't the season where the worm was going to turn. It didn't happen yet again. Is this the one? Will we finally see some outperformance from a vol perspective? We got some financials popping off this week, and a few of them delivering a little bit of vol out there. Not so much yet on the Rock'em Sock'em Robots front, but we shall see. The season is young. There are a lot of names popping off next week. We have Schwab before the bell today. Let's look really quickly. They're at $70.20 as of this report. They were pricing in, let's see, $1.90. In the past, they've moved $2.36, so a little bit lighter vol there, and they're off about $1.25 so far today, and they're actually off about a buck from where they were at this report. So they have pretty much dramatically underperformed from a vol perspective. So sounds like past is prologue, at least for now here in the earnings season. But the season is young. It's barely getting started. We got some big names coming. You got Chipotle's, your Apples, your Teslas, all that good stuff, and a whole bunch more. So if you like to sink your teeth into a little bit of earnings volatility, and let's be frank, who doesn't, right? Even if you don't trade it, it is interesting to watch and keep an eye on. You know where to go for all that data and a whole bunch more. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab, and you're off to the races. Meanwhile, we're off to your segment. It is time to unleash your volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL. Posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options. or facebook.com/theoptionsinsider.
All right, let's kick it off here, see how many we can squeeze in here. Mackenzie, she's one of our pro members here. She wants to know, or she says, this show is amazing. Well, thank you, Mackenzie. Says, thank you so much for educating all of us volatility neophytes. I love the vocabulary on our listeners. You're an impressive bunch. She says, have you ever thought about incorporating more SPX into volatility views? Well, couple of answers to that. First off, yes. Secondly, it does a lot of paper, so it's kind of hard to always get to the heart of what's going on there from a pure vol perspective. Third, this is only a 1 hour show, so we already have to squeeze in spikes, futures, and options, VIX futures and options, VXX, UVXY, some earnings vol. Usually by the time we get through with all that, we're already most of the way through the show. If we stopped to dally around on SPX and then maybe some SPY and everything else, it'd be a whole second show there, Mackenzie. So great question. But maybe if we have a 2 hour show, maybe we can work that in. We do keep an eye on it, obviously. And if there's something that relates directly, we will bring it onto the show. But these days, it's a little challenging just to squeeze in everything that we have. All right, another pro member coming in from the live chat. Options Queen. Oh, there she is. She's taking my victory lap on the crystal ball now. Well, there you go. I'll allow you to have it. You were pretty darn close there for a while. I have to see where we are right now. But you were looking pretty good. She also says, looking forward to Options Oddities later today. Love the pro content. Whoa. Glad to see you're liking it over there. Does seem like the folks are enjoying a bit of the old Options Oddities as well. That one coming up, remember, listeners, 1 hour after vol views, we have to readjust, reconfigure. Rocklops has to take a nap. All sorts of fun stuff has to happen between now and then. So 2 p.m. Central is when Options Oddities is coming up. By the way, Options Queen, if you're liking the pro content, you like vol views, and Mackenzie, you as well, you're going to have a double dose of great vol-oriented pro Q&As. You get 2 next week. Don't say I never gave you anything. So stay tuned for that. If you're liking the vol content and you like the pro content, it's a freaking bonanza next week, listeners. So stay tuned for that. Someone maybe a little bit related to spikes, and then someone who's maybe has written a few kind of very popular books about bombs. Just putting those out there. That's all I'm going to say. So we'll announce all that stuff later on, probably on the weekend, who we have coming up for next week. But should be a good one. Stay tuned for all that stuff. If you don't know what the heck we're talking about, you want to check out the archives, you want to just join us next week. It's going to be a good one next week. Good double, actually. Check out theoptionsinsider.com/pro. that is the place to go here. Here's Alan. I do believe he's another one of our pro members. You guys are tearing it up today. Alan wants to know, are you guys excited for this, or is it just another meaningless data point? And he puts a link to the CBOE announces the launch of the new CBOE 3-month implied correlation index. They're calling it a new vol-related benchmark index that provides 3-month constant maturity representation of implied correlation for the S&P, aims to help market participants better understand factors driving volatility, disseminated 4 times per minute during the trading day. So at least they got that under their belts and not doing it once a day at the end of the day. Matt, you spent some time over there in the CBOE. You have some familiarity with them kind of launching things that sometimes take off. Usually they kind of end up just kind of hanging out there. Are you excited at all about the notion of a correlation index? You think this is going to be another one of those things that kind of like the skew index is kind of out there but doesn't really resonate with people?
Yeah, I don't think this is a meaningless data point at all. I think this is significant. It's part, I think implied correlation is probably, a bit esoteric for the everyday trader. There's probably some, volatility nerds, ultra nerds that are going to really like it. I think the challenge for CBOE is going to be to demonstrate why and educate why should they care about why should people care about implied correlation, and they did a great job at educating the broader investment community about why should they care about implied volatility. So I think it's an important development, and I think they'll do a great job at educating the community about why implied correlation is important.
I root for all of these things to take off. I'm sometimes disappointed when they don't. I think skew is cool, but the way they kind of calculate it is a bit obtuse, and yeah, the kind of end of day only makes it a little bit less useful. This fact, this is 4 times a minute. That makes me a little bit more excited. Yeah, you're right. It is kind of an esoteric thing, and I have a feeling this is going to join the long litany of things that CBOE disseminates that are kind of just hanging out there on the website that maybe aren't really that utilized. I don't see this becoming a tradable product anytime soon, but then again, crazier things have happened out there. Speaking of crazy things, we got to get to the craziest part of the show. It is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right. Wow. Maybe your celebration wasn't premature there, options queen. Because, we had almost a 1726 in the VIX cash coming into this latter portion of the show here. Spikes right now at 1639. So both of them having kind of stayed firm or firmed up a little bit since the end of the show. Getting back to what Rock Lobster was saying, it's kind of unusual seeing vol getting firmer going into a weekend. We all had a bunch of people playing last week. We had JJ, he was feeling a lot of vol, 22.25, not so much there. Tim, 18.05, a little better. Alan trying to scumbag me at 16 double. I was at 16.65, so I shake my fist at you, Alan. Luigi was at 18.35. We also on the show had Matt at about a 17.5. He was looking good till options queen scooped you there, Matt. So I guess the victory would have been yours. But man, you got a bullseye there, option. We have to come up with a prize for you on that one. That's pretty impressive. Andrew was feeling a lot less vol. He was at 16.25, and I was kind of splitting the uprights at 16.65. So yeah, the winner goes to our listeners. I love when the listeners come in there and scoop a victory. That is fantastic. That makes me very excited. So there are no winners this week on the show, at least. Options Queen, maybe we'll send you something cool, because that is pretty nice out there. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, I was actually closer than you. So I will choose, and I'll tell you what, I'll be nice. I'll let you choose. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I'm just going to say we probably spent most of the week around 1625, most of the dang week. But of course, we got, at least the option queen is aptly named,
She is quite the queen. Yes, I doff my crown to you, madam.
I mean, that's an excellent job right there. I have to say, I think this persistent bid is going to stay and it's not going to go away. And apparently, since the Fed can't make up their mind what they're going to do, so I'm actually, I think we're going to be a little higher next week. Some of this might come to fruition. So I'm going to go. I'm going to say 1795, and I bet you we trade the 20 handle next week.
Dang! Wow, who swapped you for Russell Rhodes, the vol buyer?
I know. It's just the way it is. There's too much. Is
that just your frustration on that 25-40 vertical? Is that coming through? You want that bad boy to trade over $1, damn it, and you're gonna make it happen with your vol prognostication.
It's gonna happen next week.
Well, now that you're out of it, it's definitely gonna happen now. Interesting stuff. Matt, you weren't on the show last week, so you didn't have a chance to lose like the rest of us and get trumped by our extremely adept audience. You folks out there are impressive. So Matt, what are you feeling this time next week? We'll limit you to spikes because that's your domain of choice. That's your expertise, sir. Yeah,
I'm actually going to take the opposite side of Andrea, but that's what makes a market and what makes the world go round. I actually think vol is going to continue to trend lower. The key drivers out there are the severity of the Delta variant and the Fed. I just think it's going to be pretty quiet on that front. So we're looking at 16.5 on spikes right now. I think it'll be lower in the 15.5 level next week.
15.5. Wow, aggressive. No wonder why you like those spike puts so much. Those will look pretty good if you hit that 15.5. Wow, so we have a pretty truck wide market here, listeners, already. 17.95 on the upside, 15. I'm not sure. I'm surprised. I'm not sure what to do with myself with so much room to play. Usually you guys are a lot closer than that. Nearly 2.5 points there. This is, again, one of those weird weeks out there. Vol staying firm into a weekend does give me a little bit of pause. We don't normally see that. We have also seen the market struggle to really catch a bid all week long, which is not something we've seen for a while either. Usually it's a day that ends in Y. We got green on the screen. So the fact that it's struggling, is it Delta? Is it the Fed nonsense? Is it all of it kind of meshed together here? Probably a little bit of column C there. But all of that could potentially be some room for a little bit more vol out there. So I was at a 16.65 this time last week. I don't usually like doing this, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit. But I'm going to say we're going to be at about a 16.75 this time next week. So a little bit lower than where we are right now from a VIX level, from a spikes level, obviously a little bit higher. And kind of just vacillating around. That doesn't mean we won't see these extremes everyone is predicting in the intra-week period. But by the end of the week, where it counts right now, we're going to be glued to a 16.75. You folks have your prognostication. A lot of people hit us up with stuff last week. They were all over the place. Hit us up with your prognostications again this week. See if you could beat Options Queen at her own game here, because she had a nice one this week. All right. Unfortunately, that music means we've come to the end. See there, Mackenzie? We're already long on time. We didn't even get to SPX today, so be kind of hard to squeeze that one in. Well, we keep an eye on it for you out there. That music means we're done, listeners. But don't worry, you don't have to go home. We'll be back in exactly an hour to talk all the mad world of options activity in the world of options oddities. Some fun stuff to parse there, so stay tuned for that in about exactly an hour. Before we go, let's go back around the horn. Mr. Matt, we'll start with you. You teased a lot of cool stuff here today. Obviously, more futures volume coming up. Also, these upcoming ETFs that may be interesting. If folks want to check out all that and a lot more, maybe have some questions about spikes as well, where should they go? What should they do?
They should go to MIAXoptions.com. All that information is available on our website there, and hope you visit the site.
There you go. MIAXoptions.com, the place to go if you want spikes. MIAXoptions.com/spikes is the place to go for all this data I'm always talking about here on the show, the charts, the press releases, all that other cool stuff, and a whole bunch more. Even a link to a cool show called Volatility Views. What more could you ask for from a vol-oriented destination. And Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks are intrigued, they want to debate your vol prognostications or maybe check out your vol trading newsletter, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, then come over to optionpit.com. Our trading legion, which is teaching people how to get the market to pay for your options. It's a pretty effective course. There's actually now we're going to have 4 live sessions per week on that. It's a great deal, and we're offering also a long term if you want to just kind of show up there forever and check it out. Great educational package, plus trade alerts and stuff. So to see how to kind of do all this stuff, so go to optionpit.com, go to the Trading Legion link and check it all out so you can learn how to do your options. But apparently, I don't think Option Queen needs it. I think she's rattling along with.
She's going to teach your course. She is the new host of the Trading Legion, the new educator over there on the trade. Checking out for yourselves the land of the pit. You know how much I love that name, Trading Legion. You folks swiping it out from under my legs there. Check it out. Optionpit.com is the place to go on behalf of the Rock Lobster and Matt, everybody over there in MIAX land, and indeed myself. I thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, subscribing. If you're not on the pro side, this does conclude our broadcast week for you. Thanks for tuning in and enjoying all of our content there. If you are on the pro side, stay tuned. We'll be back in exactly 55 minutes to break down the mad world of unusual options activity. And then, of course, we're back again on Monday to kick it all off with the option block all the way through to another Friday, another episode of Volatility Views.
Volatility Views is brought to you by MIAX, one of the fastest, most efficient trading platforms in the world. MIAX is proud to bring you Spikes Volatility products. Spikes options and futures are traded on the Spikes Volatility Index, Spike, offering pinpoint accuracy, radically faster dissemination, and a highly transparent settlement auction, all for ultra-low exchange fees. It's volatility reimagined. Learn more about Spikes at miaxoptions.com/spikes. Options and futures involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. The statements made are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for financial or legal advice. Volatility Views is also brought to you by Matrix Executions, LLC, an agency broker-dealer focused on best execution in trading workflow automation. A technology-driven firm, Matrix is led by trading pioneers with decades of experience designing and building best-in-class solutions for options markets. Matrix connects to all domestic exchange venues and multiple international exchanges and serves both institutional and individual clients. For more information on Matrix Executions, LLC, please visit matrixexecutions.com. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.